The reading of Grandma Rose's will was held in the library of Uncle Richard's house. The house he'd built on what he claimed was his land, overlooking the valley. The same valley where Grandma's worthless shack sat like a forgotten memory, barely visible through the trees below. To my son Richard, the lawyer read, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses, I leave my collection of first edition books and the mahogany secretary desk. Uncle Richard nodded smugly, already calculating their value. To my daughter Patricia, I leave my jewelry collection and the contents of my safety deposit box. Aunt Patricia touched her pearl necklace, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. To my son Michael, I leave my investment portfolio and the classic car collection. My father straightened his tie, looking pleased. 3 vintage cars and a healthy stock portfolio, exactly what he'd expected. And to my granddaughter Emma, the lawyer paused, glancing up at me with something that might have been sympathy. I leave the cabin on Deer Creek Trail and all its contents. The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds before the laughter started. The shack, Cousin Bradley choked out between guffaws. She left you that termite buffet? I hope you like outhouses. Cousin Melissa added, tears streaming down her face from laughing so hard. Uncle Richard was the loudest. Oh, Emma, all those summers you spent up there with her. And that's all you get? A cabin that doesn't even have proper electricity. I sat quietly, hands folded in my lap, remembering those summers. Grandma teaching me to identify edible mushrooms, showing me how to read the land, telling me stories about Grandpa and how they'd bought that worthless piece of property for almost nothing in 1952. Maybe she can rent it out, Aunt Patricia suggested with fake concern. Though who'd want to stay in a place with no cell service and a well that runs dry every August? The logs are probably rotted through, my father added, not quite meeting my eyes. Might be better to just let the forest reclaim it. Actually, I said, standing up, I think I'll go check on it this weekend. See what condition it's in. This brought a fresh wave of laughter. Better bring a tent, Uncle Richard wheezed. In case the roofs finally caved in. I gathered my purse and headed for the door. Behind me, I could hear them dividing up the real inheritance, who would get Grandma's car, who wanted her china set, who should handle selling her house in town. The cabin was 2 hours away, up a winding mountain road that turned to dirt halfway through. My sensible sedan struggled with the ruts and stones, but I made it, parking in the same spot where Grandma's old truck used to sit. The cabin looked exactly as I remembered, small but sturdy, built from logs Grandpa had cut himself. The roof was moss-covered but intact. The porch sagged a little but held my weight. Inside, everything was clean and waiting, as if Grandma had just stepped out for a walk. On the kitchen table was an envelope with my name on it. My dearest Emma, asterisk if you're reading this, then things have gone as I expected. Your family has laughed at your inheritance, haven't they? Let them laugh. You're the only one who ever loved this land the way I do, the only one who listened when I talked about property lines and survey markers. Asterisk. Asterisk in the bedroom closet, behind the winter coats, you'll find a metal box. Everything you need is inside. Asterisk. Asterisk remember what I taught you. The truth isn't always what people assume it is. Sometimes the greatest treasures look worthless to those who don't know how to see. Asterisk. Asterisk all my love. Grandma Rose asterisk. Asterisk P.S. Water the tomatoes. I planted them late this year. Asterisk. I found the box easily. A fireproof safe containing several manila envelopes. My hands shook as I opened the first one. It was a survey map dated 1952, showing the original purchase. My eyes widened as I traced the property lines. This wasn't just the acre or two around the cabin. The lines extended far beyond what I'd assumed, covering. I sat down hard on the bed, map trembling in my hands. The second envelope contained the original deed and mineral rights documentation. The third held timber rights. The fourth, aerial photographs from different decades, showing the gradual encroachment of development onto what the map clearly showed was Grandma's land, including Uncle Richard's house, and the vacation homes on the ridge, and the ski resort's lower runs. I spent the weekend at the cabin, going through every document, cross-referencing maps, making notes. Grandma had kept meticulous records. She'd known exactly what she owned and who was trespassing on it. She'd just never said anything. Sunday evening, I called a surveying company. I need a comprehensive property survey done, I told them. The original deed shows approximately 2,000 acres, but I need exact boundaries marked. 2,000 acres? The The surveyor sounded surprised. That's a significant survey. When was the last one done? 1952. A low whistle. Yeah, you definitely need an update. Lot of development in these mountains since then. Could be some interesting boundary issues. Interesting. That was one way to put it. The surveyors arrived 2 weeks later with their equipment. I met them at the cabin, providing copies of all the documentation. They whistled as they reviewed it. Ma'am, if these boundaries are accurate. The lead surveyor, Tom, shook his head. You own half this mountain. Maybe more. How long until you can confirm? Give us a week. We'll mark everything properly, compare against county records, make sure it's all official. That week crawled by. I stayed at the cabin, fixing small things, tending Grandma's garden, avoiding my family's calls and texts asking if I'd given up on that dump yet. Tom called on Friday. Ms. Emma, you need to see this. Can you meet us at your cabin? He and his team had set up a large table on the porch, maps spread across it. Modern surveys overlaid on historical ones. Bright orange flags dotted the mountainside in every direction. Congratulations, Tom said. You own 2,347 acres of prime mountain real estate. The original purchase was for 2,000, but the way the boundaries work with the ridgelines and watershed, you actually have more. And the developments? He pulled out another map, this one marked with red X's. Your uncle's house is 500 feet inside your property line. The Meadowview Vacation Homes development? The back 9 houses are all on your land. The ski resort has 3 runs and a lift that cross your boundaries. And, he pointed to a cluster of buildings. The new outlet mall they built last year? Its entire parking lot is on your property. I stared at the map. They've all been trespassing? Technically, yes. Though after this long, there might be claims for adverse possession, easements, that sort of thing. You'll need a good lawyer. Oh, I think I can find one. I took photos of everything, thanked the survey team, and drove back to town. That evening, I called a family meeting at Uncle Richard's house. To discuss the cabin situation, I told him. They all came, eager to hear that I'd finally realized what a burden Grandma had left me. So, Uncle Richard said, pouring himself a scotch, ready to admit the old shack is worthless? I know a guy who hauls away junk for cheap. Actually, I said, pulling out my laptop, I had some surveyors come look at the property. Surveyors? My father frowned. Why waste money on that? I connected my laptop to Richard's big screen TV. Because I wanted to know exactly what I inherited. The first image appeared. The original 1952 survey map. Grandma and Grandpa bought 2,000 acres for $500, I said. Everyone always assumed it was just the land around the cabin. A couple acres at most. That's impossible, Aunt Patricia scoffed. We've been going up there for 50 years. It's just the cabin and maybe an acre of woods. I clicked to the next image. The modern survey with boundary flags visible across the mountainside. Actually, it's 2,347 acres. Including. I clicked again, showing the marked developments. The land under Uncle Richard's house. Richard's Scotch glass froze halfway to his mouth. That's ridiculous, he sputtered. I bought this land fair and square 15 years ago. From Meadowview Development Company, I said. Who bought it from Pine Ridge LLC? Who bought it from Mountain Vista Corporation? None of whom ever actually owned it, because it was never Grandma's to sell. It was always part of the original parcel. The room erupted. This is insane. You can't be serious. There must be a mistake. I held up a hand. There's more. The next slide showed the vacation homes. Several cousins who'd bought there went pale. 9 homes in the Meadowview development are on my land, I continued. The ski resort has 3 runs crossing my property. The outlet mall's parking lot. Oh, and Cousin Bradley? That hunting lease you've been charging your friends $5,000 a year for? You've been leasing them my land. Bradley's face went from red to white to red again. Grandma knew, I said quietly. She kept every record, every aerial photo showing the encroachment, every tax bill she paid on the full acreage. She never said anything because she didn't care about the money. But she cared about the land. And she left it to the only person in this family who ever loved it like she did. You can't do this, Uncle Richard stood up, shaking. I'll sue. Adverse possession. Requires open, notorious, and hostile possession for 20 years in this state, I interrupted. But you've only been here 15. And it has to be hostile, meaning without permission. Grandma paid the taxes every year, proving she maintained ownership. You have no claim. What do you want? Aunt Patricia asked quietly. Money. I want what's legally mine. You all have 30 days to either purchase easements for your properties at fair market value or vacate my land. Fair market value? Michael laughed bitterly. Do you know what land up here is worth now? About $3,000 an acre for undeveloped parcels. More for land with road access. Much more for commercial use. I closed my laptop. My lawyer will be in touch with each of you individually. Your lawyer? Melissa sneered. What lawyer is going to take? Richardson, Klein, and Associates. They're very interested in the outlet mall situation particularly. Apparently commercial trespass can include damages for all profits made while illegally using the land. The room fell silent. This is because we laughed, Bradley said finally. You're destroying our lives because we hurt your feelings. No, I said, standing to leave. I'm claiming what Grandma left me. What was always mine. You're facing consequences because you built on land you didn't own. The laughter just made it easier. Emma, please, my father said. We're family. Yes, we are. And family should have been happy for me, whatever Grandma left me. Instead, you mocked me for inheriting a worthless shack, while you divided up everything else. Well, now you know the truth. The shack came with something none of you bothered to consider, the land it sits on. I headed for the door, then turned back. Oh, and Uncle Richard? You might want to call your homeowner's insurance. I doubt they'll cover a house built on land you don't own. Enjoy your evening. The calls started before I even reached my car. I ignored them all. Over the next month, the family tried everything. Tears, threats, lawyers of their own. But the survey was clear, the documents were solid, and 70 years of paid tax receipts on 2,347 acres made Grandma's ownership indisputable. Uncle Richard had to take out a massive loan to buy the easement for his house. The vacation home owners formed a group to negotiate a bulk rate. The ski resort's lawyers spent 3 days reviewing the surveys before agreeing to pay for proper land use rights. The outlet mall situation got complicated fast. They ended up paying a settlement that would have made Grandma laugh. Bradley's hunting lease clients sued him for fraud. He had to refund 5 years of fees he'd collected for access to land he didn't own. But the best part, I didn't kick anyone out. I gave them all options, fair prices, legal solutions. I was more generous than they'd ever been to me, which somehow made it worse for them. They'd have preferred if I'd been vengeful, petty, cruel. Instead, I was just a landowner asserting my rights. 6 months later, I built a proper house next to Grandma's cabin, modern, comfortable, but respectful of the land. The cabin itself I renovated carefully, maintaining its character while adding modern conveniences. It's now a guest house where friends stay when they visit. I kept the outhouse, though. Bradley was right about one thing. It is part of the cabin's charm. The tomatoes Grandma planted that last spring grew wild and strong, producing fruit well into fall. I saved the seeds, and now I plant them every year, just like she taught me. Sometimes I sit on the new deck, looking out over my 2,347 acres, and I can almost hear Grandma laughing. Not the cruel laughter of my family discovering their mistake, but the warm, knowing laugh of a woman who played a very long game and won. The shack wasn't worthless after all. It was priceless, because it came with something more valuable than anyone imagined, the land beneath our feet and the last laugh. And every time Uncle Richard writes his easement check, I think he hears that laughter too. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.